Welcome back to Sounds Like Freedom. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, and I'm here today with Kim Lengling. Kim has been writing since 2004, showcasing her faith, nature, love of rescue animals, and living with PTSD. She's the lead author and coordinator of a collaborative three-book series titled When Grace Found Me. And her newest book, When Hope Found Me, released Thanksgiving Day 2022. She's the host of the podcast Let Fear Bounce and the host of The Right Stuff, the Author's Voice TV show on the Believe in Your Dreams TV network. She also shares her journey of living with PTSD, how she navigates through the tough days, and how she turns dark moments into pieces of light and tosses them out in the world as a nugget of hope for others. You can regularly find her drinking coffee, walking in nature with her trusty rescue dog Dexter, and chatting with the critters that live in her realm, gathering ideas for other books she has in the works. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, I know there's some in your bio, but you talk about your faith, you talk about, it seems like you love animals, you have a dog, um, and living with PTSD and finding hope and strength in that place. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I went into the military right out of high school. And literally a month after graduation, I went into the military. Loved it. I liked the discipline of it. I liked how it was regimented. It was a good fit for me. And things happen, traumatic things. And that's where my PTSD stems from. So that was a journey that I wasn't prepared for. I wasn't anticipating, let's put it that way, at 19 years of age. And it does, it rocks your world, turns your world around. I was sexually assaulted by two individuals. And that, it changes how you look at life, how you view the world, how you view people. And it's amazing what the brain can do, how seamlessly it seems that you can stuff something away and lock it behind a door, thinking, okay, done. Not thinking about it, not dealing with it, done, didn't happen. But that doesn't stay that way. Think that stuff, it will build and build, and I think of it like, when you plop an Alka-Seltzer in a thing of water,
Hmm.
how it slowly starts to fizzle. And then when it reaches the top, it's all bubbly and, making all kinds of noise. That's kind of how it is. That's how I envision it. So it was years later, literally years, probably close to 15 years later, where other life things happen because life does. You experience loss or death in the family, divorce, what have you. All kinds of things can happen. And it just so happened that for me, there was like three or four, it was just boom, 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 one after the other. And it got to the point where it brought me to my knees. Literally, I was on my knees on my living room floor, sobbing. And I told myself I didn't believe in God, but I was also very, very angry with God.
Hmm.
But how can you be angry with something you don't believe in?
Right.
But that was my mindset. There it was. And I'm on my knees, literally sobbing. Those kind of sobs that just shake your whole body, those
Hmm.
whole body racking sobs. And I remember just saying, please. That's the only thing I remember saying out loud is please. Back, I know that it was a prayer. But at that time, I was just like, please, please. I just needed all of this to stop. It was just too much. I couldn't do it anymore. And all of these memories, it was like this door blasted open. So not only going through all of the stuff I'm going through, but then all this past came rushing in as if to remind me, you're worthless. Look at you. Look at you on your knees. You're nothing. That's what it felt like. And that's an awful, awful feeling. And I never wish that on anyone ever. Um, but I heard a whisper in the midst of my pleases. And I thought I was going crazy. I really did. I heard a whisper, and all it said was, those who hope in the Lord. And I turned because it came from behind me. I'm going, I'm the only one in this house besides my old dog. I'm losing my mind. I'm true. And I was, my mindset And then I thought, well, those words sound Bible-ish. Now, I didn't attend church. I didn't grow up in church, didn't attend church, had never read the Bible. I was in a dark spot. And then that whisper came again, but those who hope in the Lord. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I am. I'm actually losing my mind. But that does sound Bible-ish. Isn't there a Bible in this house somewhere? And I became frantic to find this Bible. I knew there was one in the house somewhere. I was racing around the house like a crazy person because I thought I was crazy. Got the Bible, went back into the living room. I just sat down on the floor and I'm thinking, there's no index. There's no table of contents. How are you supposed to find anything? And I got so angry and just threw it on the ground and it slid a couple feet away from me. And I'm still crying. And then I hear that whisper one more time, the third time. But those who hope in the Lord. And I'm like, I don't know who this is, but if this is God, I've been pretty ticked off for a long time. If this is you talking to me, why now? You have all these, I had an attitude. I had a bit of an attitude. And I reached forward and grabbed the Bible from, where I had thrown it and it had, flown itself open. And I lifted it up and looked down and it was literally as if the words were lit up. But those who hope in the Lord will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Hoo-wee. Yeah, it still gets me all churned up even today thinking about it because that was a major, major moment. That was a major moment. And then I went, okay, I hear you. That's got to be you. And since then, that has been my go-to scripture. That's always in the back of my mind when I'm going through something or if I see someone else going through something. I'm like, Father God, can you whisper to them? Can you whisper those words to them? And since that time, my life changed in increments. It wasn't like this massive magical change, but it was a journey. Of course, one I'm still on because none of us are perfect. And but that's kind of how I started to see the world not as dark. And then words started coming and I started writing stuff down. And then I started getting asked to speak at places. And I was like, what's this all about? I don't want to share my personal story. This is really, really hard. But then and then I realized I was being nudged. And I always do this because it always feels like it's coming from behind me, like, that little John, come on, you can do it. So that's, that was so long ago. It was years ago. I just started writing for myself. And then I was asked to participate in an anthology and share my story. Then I was asked to speak at churches to share my story in women's groups. And each time it got a little easier. It's never easy. It got a little easier to share it because I realized every time I did, it touched someone or slammed someone in a good way. Like they realized, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me. I'm not crazy. I'm not worthless. I'm not a piece of crap. All those things that you feel. And so that's kind of how my journey of writing began. And then things just unfolded over the years. I started writing for the local newspaper, was asked to be in more anthologies. And then I thought, well, why don't I coordinate my own? There's so many people out there, stories. And so I began that actually at the beginning of the pandemic. That first year is when Grace found me. Those 3 anthologies, they were all put together, coordinated, and published within 12 months. That was a major God thing. That was another big old nudge he gave me one day on a hot August afternoon while I was sitting on my back porch. But that's kind of how my story started. And, my dog, Dexter, he's a rescue dog. Prior to him, I had a dog named Digger, had him for 14 years. They're very, very integral in my life. Living with PTSD, I do live with anxiety and depression and all of that fun stuff that comes with it. But I've learned over the years how to dig into my little toolbox and pull out what's needed. But my dog, they're amazingly intuitive animals and they're just in tune with me. They'll nudge me or boot me with their nose or come up and body slam me. And it's like they know when something's creeping up, and that's how I always say it. It's creeping. They sometimes catch it before I do. So they've got their loving little souls right next to you before you even realize you needed that. So my dogs have always been very, very important to me, and being out in nature, because that's where I can breathe. And that's where I talk the most to God. That's my story.
That's so, thank you for sharing your story and having the boldness and the courage to do that. I know it's not easy. It's not easy to share things that are so personal and, typically very private. But you're right. As we have the boldness to share, there's so many people who realize I'm not the only one. Because I think that's such a big lie that the enemy likes to feed us, that you're the only one. And then we get
Right.
stuck. But as we share and as we open, and that's part of why, I'm willing to be so transparent in my life, because I've realized that there's power in sharing. There's power in our testimony. God says there's power in our testimony. That's how we all overcome. We have to share and give and inspire others and bring that faith and that hope. Now, you mentioned you have a toolbox because you say, like all of us, we're all a work in progress. We're all on this side of heaven still, all of us. So, what are some tools that you found particularly helpful when you have those moments of darkness, that when they come and the anxiety comes? What are some things that you do to get back into that place of hope and grace and strength?
I redirect my focus, and I use my five senses. And that seems to be what works best for me. I know everybody's different, but what works best for me, I have to get outside. That's my thing. And I live in a very cold environment. I'm in Pennsylvania. So today we have below zero temperatures and it's freezing. And I was still out there walking for a half hour with my dog this morning. I refocus. So if I can't get outside where I'm at, I go to a window and I look out. And it's like, first off, okay, what do you see? Okay, you see the pine tree. What's it doing? It's swaying in the wind. Can you hear the wind? Oh, yeah, I can hear the wind a little bit. What do you smell? Oh, I smell the perfume from the lady who just walked behind me. What do you feel? I can feel the fabric of my jacket. I just sit there. So I focus on and go down through the five senses. And then that changes, your brain the synapses in your brain. And then I'm able to sit there, and go, okay, we've got this. And then sometimes if I fall into it too quick or too deep, I literally have to say out loud, not today, D-man. No. And that's why I call him D-man. Not today, D-man. You're not hanging out here. And I'll do this. I have to physically do movements, and I'll flick him off my shoulder, because to me, he's just a little bug. I'm not going to let him get bigger than a bug. So it's like, out of here, D-man. Not today. I might have opened the door to you inadvertently, but I'm slamming it shut on you. Out. And if I have to say that out loud for me, because that to me, like you said just a few seconds ago, words have power. And I want him to slink away and say, oh, I missed her again. And I'll be like, yes, you did. Because I got all kinds of other goodness just surrounding me. And then the Most High above me. He's got me surrounded with his angel armies, and we will crush you out of here. So you're just a bug. And I have to envision it and say it out loud. And that's what works for me. I mean, of course, we all have those times where you just find yourself crying. You're just crying and you're like, oh, pull yourself out, pull yourself out, pull yourself out. And sometimes it's hard. I am not negating how hard it is. Believe me, I've lived with this for 30 years and I still have my days where you might wake up and the demon's gotten to you in your sleep, giving you nightmares, and you wake up and you're still in the midst of that emotional upset. And that's a horrible way to wake up. Goodness. So I do a lot of times have to talk myself, all right, come on, Kim, come on, go get coffee, get outside. As soon as you get outside with the dog, you're going to breathe, then talk to the big guy, have it out with him, and sometimes it's easier said than done, but I try. It's a work in progress. And at times, and I know a lot of veterans that live with PTSD, it's a daily. work in progress. And I'm one of them. And that's okay. Because I don't think, you look back and you're like, I would not wish that on anybody. But I've never said that I recall, I've never said, why me? I've never pulled out the why me or woe is me card. I don't think I've ever done that. Because why not me? Why not you? You know, and things happen. But I sit there and I'm like, okay, that was a horrible thing. And it's impacted my entire life. Entire life. I'm in my 50s now. But then you look back and you see, and I envision it like stepping stones. You see that path that was laid out. And if I had not went through any of that, I wouldn't be doing any of what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be, I know for a fact, I would not be as passionate about helping others as I am now. I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't be sharing anything, especially with women. I wouldn't even be in church, for goodness sake. So I can look back and see the path, how it was laid out. But of course, when you're going through it, you're like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Yeah, really? But now I can recognize something where, if I'm gently nudged, I want you to do this. And you're like, whoa, ah, ah, hmm. you know, I don't know. I don't know, God, am I the one for this? And you feel that little nudge again. And it's like, all right, you're regularly asked to step outside your comfort zone.
Hmm.
And now that I recognize those nudges for what they are, I just boldly step into it. Even if I'm sweating, my voice is shaking, and I'm uncomfortable. I have been nudged to approach complete strangers and pray with them. The first time I did that, I actually thought I was going to throw up. I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to do this. I have like this internal argument. You don't ever win arguments with God.
Nope.
I
I gave
never
up.
have. Just doesn't happen. But the first time I did that, I had a horrible day at work. It was when I still worked outside the home. I had a horrible day at work. It was just so stressful, so ridiculous. People were ridiculous. And I'm driving home and I'm angry. I'm like, oh, I just got to get home and make supper and walk the dog and do this and do that. And I was just, all those little things that were just nitpicking at me. And I'm like, oh man, I have to stop at the vet and pick up the medicine for the dog because my dog wasn't feeling well at the time. And I'm like, I don't even have time I don't feel like it. And I wasn't going to, but at the last second, I turned onto the road that would take me to the vets. At the very last second, I'm like, oh, I'll just do it tonight and get it over with. Well, the place is packed. There's no place to sit in the waiting room. It's just, filled with people. So I'm standing in a corner, patiently waiting for my name to be called because I just need to pick something up. They said it would be there waiting for me. Well, it wasn't, one of those things. So I'm standing there getting all grumpy and I'm just watching people because I'm a people watcher and I'm watching all the dogs come in. I'm just getting a joy out of that and looking at a puppy that's coming in and yipping and yiping and wanting to play. And then an older woman comes in. She goes directly to the counter and she's visibly upset. And she says, I would like to pay now, please. So she paid and then she left and came back in with a cat carrier. There's no place to sit. Well, someone did get up and give her their seat. So she was an elderly lady. She sits down with her cat carrier, reaches in and pulls the cat up and she's just holding it and petting it. And no one's paying attention to her, but I noticed her. I'm standing in the corner and she starts crying. And I look around and there are people uncomfortably looking at her and then looking away, looking down at their phone. They won't pay attention to her. And I'm like, someone is obviously in distress. Her heart is breaking and everyone's ignoring her. And then I got this big old nudge. You go pray with her right now. And I went, what?
Like, what? Say what?
Yeah. Go pray with her. So I did. I approached this woman and she's crying really hard. And I got down on my knees in front of her And I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And because she had her face buried in her cat, and she lifts her eyes up and she's just crying, just, oh, heartbreaking. And I just looked at her and she goes, "I have to put him down." And I went, "I am so sorry. I am sorry. Can I please pray over you and your cat?" And she just nodded her head and she's sobbing. So she's hugging her cat. I put my hand on the cat's head and my hand on her elbow and just prayed. And then I was done. I prayed, I got up and I went, and then they called my name. I got my stuff and I left. And I just cried all the way home. All the way home. I got home and on Facebook, just on my personal page, and it was not for any notice. I was so overwhelmed with emotion. I'm like, this is what just happened. And this woman has just, my heart breaks for her. And I hope that my prayer, helped her in some small way. It was a couple hours later. I was getting messages from all over the place. It was crazy. And I'm going, who are these people? People had shared that. And then I got a message from a woman saying, "I hope I have the right Kim, but you prayed over my mother and her cat in the veterinarian's office tonight. You have no idea what that meant to her. She just lost her husband 3 months ago, and they had 4 animals, and they've all died since dad died, and this cat was the last animal. So all of this was happening within 3 months, and that was her last cat. You have no idea what your prayer meant to my mom. So thank you." And I went, that's why God nudged me so hard. And that was the first time. And now I do it every time he tells me to. Because it was so, I'm very empathetic, very empathetic. And if someone is in distress or hurting, I literally feel it. It hits me. And that's another thing I think that's part of my makeup now that I wouldn't have had unless I had went through everything I'd went through in the last 30 years. I think that's part of God's plan. And for whatever reason, he gave me extreme empathy. I don't like seeing people hurt or animals or children hurt. And if I'm able to, if it's just a prayer. And I used to say that, well, it's just a prayer. But then again, it's never just a prayer, because you don't know what's at work there. And I was put there for a reason that day, even though I was cranky and angry and that changed the whole rest of my evening and how I respond to those nudges. And I get them more and more. I get them more and more, and they're very obvious. I don't have to try and recognize them anymore. It's just like, oh, you again? Okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? So it's been an amazing journey. And in the midst of that, you still deal, because there are times I'm asked to do that when I'm on the verge of a panic attack. If I've got anxiety just creeping up, I'm like, oh gosh, not now, not now. Focus, focus, focus. Then you get this whisper, that person needs a prayer. I'll be like, no, I need a prayer right now. No, that person needs a prayer. So yeah, it's an interesting journey, but I find that if I listen, as long as I keep my heart open and my eyes open to see as he wants me to see things, then it's all okay. It's still bumpy, but he helps strap you in. He's our seatbelt.
And I love how you were saying how it impacts the person that you're praying for. Absolutely. But it impacts you too. And how God is setting up these situations for both of you for healing and for forward motion. So that again is such a powerful testimony of the work that God does in our lives through our obedient steps, even if we don't understand, even if we're like, are you like God really?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, powerful, powerful. story. Thank you. Now, where can people find you and find more information about you and your books?
The easiest way is they can just go to my website, which is my name, kimlenglingauthor.com. Everything's on there, my books, podcasts you can listen to if you want. I have a new little thing I'm doing. Well, it's been a thing that's in the works for a while, but Nuggets of Hope, tossing nuggets of hope out into the world. And I'm working on a book called Nuggets of Hope. And I have a radio show actually that's going to be starting very soon. Let Fear Bounce is the name of my podcast, but the radio show is going to be called Let Fear Bounce, just tossing nuggets of hope.
Nice. Very exciting. So if you want to find out more about Kim and check out her podcast, check out her books, kimlenglingauthor.com. For those who are tuning in visually, it is there on the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much for joining us today. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, to make sure they sound like freedom. Blessings. Till next time.